All right, good morning, everyone. Hey, I'm Frank Buchholz. I work on the Surface commercial marketing team in Redmond. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about Surface. I see some Surfaces out there, so that's great. Hey, I did want to give a quick plug that if you like my t-shirt or any of the t-shirts that anybody in the Surface booth over here is wearing, you can actually get a t-shirt, and you actually have to, there's a little passport that you can get, and you have to actually get 4 stamps at 4 different stations. I actually wonder if this theater station counts as one of those stops, and I'd be glad to give you a punch on that. But towards that, then you can get a t-shirt. And also, by finishing that little passport, you actually get entered in for a drawing on a Surface device towards that. And then I'll also plug a quick plug to a session that we're doing at 12:15 that takes place over in 206. And that's our kind of our mainline session with our GMs and leadership of Surface. And it's a good chance to be in there, but it's also a chance to win a device just by going to that session. So quick plug there. So let's talk a little bit about Surface today. Excited to be able to give you a little bit of an overview, but also in particular give you a little bit of a deep dive around modern deployment management and security when it comes to Surface. So when we look at a Surface device today, you know, we're very much looking at this idea that we think in the terms that the modern workplace is changing, right? We see more data being driven out through these innovation and decision makers. We see fewer cubicles and spaces being aligned. We know that there's higher expectations out there to be more creative, and we bring in devices like the Surface Hub 2S and the ability to have mobility with a new device like the Surface Pro X with LTE built in. And there's this pressure to create faster. How do we collaborate? And how do we get things done? And how do we sign in faster? And how do you secure the device or deploy the devices faster? And then there's a focus on individual achievement and having, essentially, I also think of it as pride of ownership towards the devices you have and that you actually carry. And so when we look at this, we know that we want to build these modern devices for the intelligent workspace. And so you see a big collection of pictures here. Some of the ones that I'm particularly, kind of think that are kind of cool is the ability to drive 2 4K displays at 60 hertz out of either any of the new product lines from Surface Pro 7, Laptop 3, as well as Pro X. Being able to also have this collaborative environment where you can stay in the flow when you go from one device to the other. How do you mirrorcast or share content from one device to the other, or how do you co-author across devices in order to create content to be able to share that with the rest of your team? So as we look towards that, we look at this idea that we were relentless in our iterations, right? We've been at this work not as long as others, but we think of the investment that we've made in order to make this product the best possible set of products that we know how to do. Certainly it's a premium product, but we also think of it as driving innovation. Right, we could have driving innovation not only in our design and beauty of what we bring to the product in the market space, but also driving innovation in how we work with the rest of the M365 team to drive things like autopilot deployment and Intune management of the device, and then security all the way down to the UEFI level, so you have end-to-end security and some pieces that I'll dive into a little bit later. But we are certainly obsessed towards being able to do that and being able to drive innovation throughout the entire Windows 10 ecosystem in order to bring that to light. So as we look towards that, I want to kind of play a quick video. So we think of this as a great time not only to be part of Surface, but also to be Surface owners or be people that are deploying, managing, and securing Surface as well. Because we are driving and making this easier, reducing the IT complexity because of how closely we team throughout the rest of Microsoft to deliver the best and first experience that you can possibly have within a Microsoft product and a Microsoft ecosystem. So when we look at that, we look at our new family here of devices. All the way, we think of it as, hey, there's a device for everybody that's out there. Whether you're looking at the first line worker that's on a 10-inch Go, being able to have that ease of portability and LTE mobility, but also being able to have this term that I think somebody coined of lapability, whether you're looking at the laptop or both the Pro as well. We look at this entire kind of suite of solutions, including the Hub 2S, and then what's to come would be future products that we've already announced around even the 85-inch Surface Hub that'll come out later next year. So we're excited to be able to push these products out and make them available. Towards that, though, we did back in October, on October 2nd, I don't know if anybody was watching, but we actually announced 3 new products towards that. In fact, 4 new products in this particular case. So the ones that I think we're particularly interested in and proud of is this one product called Surface Pro X. So Pro X actually will start shipping today. So that's a kind of a nice timing of being able to talk about this device. But the thing that I like about this device is not only does it take that 2-in-1 form factor that Surface Pro had, but it extends on that by being able to now have this in a LTE form factor as well. So we're essentially taking this 13-inch device, but putting it almost into a 12-inch space. But the other cool thing is we're big on pen, right? We believe in the power of pen and the ability to add that to collaboration and other pieces. But within the Pro X, what we did is we actually built a new keyboard, signature keyboard, and put this slim pen in there that uses inductive charging in order to be able to place the pen so you never lose it and it's always charged. And so it'd be able to use, just like your phone uses inductive charging to actually charge it, the pen works in the exact same way, and it's actually built straight into the keyboard, so you can always have the pen available to you. And what you find is people that have already been carrying these devices around say that they use pen now more than ever. Towards that, the other cool thing that I always love about any device within Surface is the ability to do hello. So right away, even standing on stage here, it was able to log me in without any keyboard or other interaction with the device. That provides 2 form factor authentication. Does anybody know how hello actually provides 2 form factor authentication? It's actually pretty cool where when you first log into this device for the very first time, you actually do have to provide your password. That password goes up to Azure AD. Azure AD provides a certificate that goes back on your device and is then encrypted behind the TPM chip that's on this device and kept encrypted so that the certificate is available. Then what happens is when you walk up to the device and provide your Face ID, it does an IR scan, not just a picture, but an actual IR scan. And if that matches the IR scan that's already on record on the device, it unlocks that certificate to provide that second form factor of authentication. So hello is an extremely secure way in order for you to get on the device. Facial isn't the only way to get onto the device. Also biometric through your fingerprint or a PIN is supported through hello as well. But towards this is also an interesting device for us. This is kind of like, if you think of what Surface was when we first announced Surface, we announced it as the Surface RT. Did anybody own an RT out there? All right, we got a few RT. Do you still have an RT? So RT has a lot of history within the Surface. You know, you could almost say RT ended before we even got started, but we stuck with it, right? And that kind of goes towards our perseverance towards making products and our passions behind that. But this is an ARM device, right? This is a device that allows you to essentially run code, but it does run as a 32-bit emulation when you're actually on it. But I'm running Windows 10 Enterprise on this. Before I picked up this device, and I've been kind of self-hosting it because within Microsoft I could do that. I've been self-hosting it for about 3 months now. What I find is it's comparable to my laptop 2 that I had from an information worker standpoint. I cannot tell the difference in the performance between this device and the laptop 2 that I had. Now, I'm not making any claims up here towards that, but what I would say is you would be very surprised as to the performance of this device. Please check them out in the booth right over here after you're done. The one thing we would say is on this device that's unique is that it won't run 64-bit applications, so it's probably not built for people that are running Photoshop or AutoCAD or other things along that line. But if you are an information worker and you're primarily using Outlook and PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and other types of applications like Outlook, in Edge browser and other pieces, this is definitely the device for you because it provides up to 13 hours of battery life on it, and then also allows for that LTE connectivity. So I was able to be anywhere within this environment and still have LTE connectivity. Or I'm able to join a Teams call when I wake up in the morning, put it on the seat next to me. I don't look at it, but I drive to work listening to it, or it hooks into my Bluetooth, and then I'm literally able to walk into my office and stay connected throughout the entire time. So if you're looking for that freedom of mobility, Surface Pro X is likely a device that you should check out. The other device that we announced is the new laptop 15-inch. Now, the cool thing about the 15-inch laptop is we also announced an all-metal finish because Alcantara, I always say, is a little polarizing. Sometimes people love Alcantara. Sometimes people, let's just say, they don't like it as much. But I personally like Alcantara, but this is our all-metal finish that we've created. But the other thing that we brought to the laptop, and let me see if I can do this with my finger, we've actually made it so that it's serviceable as well. So if you're an authorized service provider, and we're working on ways to provide that, you can actually service this device by removing the 4 screws on the bottom of the device, and then being able to actually access the device and access the SSD that's on the device as well. So this is an M2 SSD, definitely the size of a postage stamp that's available out there. And you're welcome to come take a look at any of these devices and actually see and feel and touch the devices towards that. But here is a Intel device running the new 10th gen Ice Lake processor, screaming fast. But also the thing we love about this device also is the keyboard, super soft. Definitely if you're a loud typer, you're not going to hear that kind of echoing coming back off the device. And also that we like to think this the type cover, or the trackpad on it being able to have kind of, it almost has a thunk sound to it rather than a click. So it's a beautiful device to have, 15-inch, also 13-inch to be able to provide that. So towards that, we look at these devices as, we think of them as designed for the way we work. We want them to be thin, light, versatile in design. We want to be able to secure them from anywhere. We want them to provide essentially a rich display and sound, so we're very proud of the sound qualities and others. In fact, we have these 2 sound booths right here that you can actually take a laptop 3 or any device into and actually hear the sound quality, or listen to our new earbuds or the headphones that we have coming out as well. Towards that, what I want to do though is I want to kind of move through this pretty quickly and be able to jump over to the Surface Hub and talk a little bit about modern manageability. So within here, we think of our device as having these natural inputs. The nice thing about a Surface device is no matter what size you're on, whether you're on a Surface Go at 10-inch or all the way up to the 50-inch Surface Hub 2S and soon to come 85-inch, the modality is the same, right? You always have pen, touch, camera, speaker, microphone. All those ways to interact with the device are consistent. So whether you're on a large device collaborating with a couple people or on a smaller device over Teams, over a whiteboard and doing co-authoring, you always feel that you're on an even playing field. Or whether you're in an environment where maybe an engineer carries a book too, or somebody else carries a laptop, you always feel like you're equally playing in the same space, depending on the levels of power the device may have, but you all have that same experience that you're able to bring towards it. We also think of it as being able to, we put a lot of work, if you know much about Microsoft, you know that we've been in the keyboard business for quite some time, so the amount of effort and science and engineering that goes into the design of the keyboards and type covers is significant, so make sure you check that out towards that experience. And we also think of it as more to the life to come about mobility that's out there. So this slide touches a little bit on the security, but for that, I really want to jump over to the other hub over here. So let's see if this works. All right. So I'm going to jump over to the Surface Hub. So I'm going to come down here, hope I don't fall off the stage. I'm going to use a little PowerPoint trick and be able to find the slide that I particularly want, if it loads. We'll just keep going since it didn't do what I wanted it to do. All right, so what I really want to talk about is how does Autopilot work on Surface? Because here's an IT Pro audience, and I want to be able to kind of give you this quick overview, because we think of Autopilot as one of the first, Surface and Autopilot kind of worked together in order to build out this solution, and Autopilot was actually delivered first on Surface and then shared with the rest of the OEMs as to essentially how is it done. And we continue to innovate and drive new experiences through Autopilot, like Autopilot White Glove and other pieces, which we'd love to give you a more in-depth on hands-on experience over in our booth. But if you think of Autopilot, most of you, how many of you have heard of Autopilot? I'm hoping almost everybody in here. Oh, quite a few that haven't, so here we go. So think of Autopilot as this pathway that says, do I want to deploy my device on-prem, or do I want to deploy my device in the cloud? And Autopilot is going to say, you're going to take that decision and we're going to go down a cloud base. Because what we really want to do is we want to say, hey, we want to stop creating gold images of devices at a corporate level and using tools like MDT in order to deploy our devices. And instead, we want to take the device so it ships straight from the factory. We're able to put it into the hands of our customer, and then we're able to deploy through Intune applications, policies, and settings down onto the device. So the real power of Autopilot is not the actual Autopilot service, it's the ability to actually communicate and use Intune and Azure AD in order to power that experience. The cool thing about a Surface device is all Surface devices ship with Office Pro Plus already installed on them. So all you're doing is placing a license down onto the device, so you're not having to download Office in order to deploy it, so that speeds up your installation process. The other thing about Surface and Windows is we ship the cleanest version of Windows that there is. I also like to think of it as, if you owned a Pixel phone and you were going out and getting Android, you know you would get the cleanest version of Android on your phone. You're not getting Verizon, Samsung's version of Android on your phone. You're actually getting Android. In this particular case, you're getting Windows and the purest version of Windows on a Surface device, tightly coupled together towards that. Now, all of our devices essentially ship out of the factory, where what we do is we collect essentially a device ID. And from that device ID, that means that every device that ships from Surface is enabled for Autopilot, whether you decide to deploy it with Autopilot or not. Then you come along and you say, hey, I'd love to buy some Surfaces. I'm hoping you all say that. Maybe we should just say that together. No, I'm kidding. So towards that, what we do is we put you in touch with a cloud solution provider. Cloud solution provider is somebody that's selling you your O365 or M365 licenses today, and they can actually sell you Surface as well. They're an authorized device reseller, as we would say. Now, what we do is we ship electronically the serial numbers of the devices. And we can send that through an Excel file. We can send that through an EDI feed if the partner is sophisticated. And what happens is the partner enters that information into Partner Center. So now the serial numbers are showing up in here as well. Well, as soon as it's entered into Partner Center, it now shows up in your tenant. So it's now in your Intune tenant or your Azure tenant. Now what you can start doing is creating a profile that is apps. These could be 32-bit apps or store apps. You could put settings and policies. And that can say that this could now be maybe the engineering department's, profile. Now the cool thing about this is you haven't even received the devices yet. They could be still sitting back at our factory, but you now have a profile set up so that we can send you the devices. So what happens is the employee receives the device and they unbox it. But the very first thing that happens is the device calls back to Microsoft and says, I'm alive. And here's my device ID. And so Microsoft says, oh, cool, let me check with the Autopilot deployment service to see if you happen to be an Autopilot registered device. And in this case, they are. So what happens is they get in touch with Intune. We sever this connection right here, and we say, Intune, take over and start pushing down applications, policies, and settings to that end user. Now, what's super cool is the device was never re-imaged. It came straight from the factory with a clean version of Windows, and is now actually prompting them with a corporate login, prompting them with your login and be like, how'd that magically happen? Because we never re-imaged the device. Well, it's all because of this Intune and Autopilot kind of process that takes place. Now, towards that, one of the cool things that's also happening is we are actually now able to also enroll this device into what's called DFCI, or Device Firmware Configuration Interface, that allows you not only to change application policies and settings at the Windows level, but now we're actually able to do that at the UEFI level. So So this is something new to Surface, and the story would go, when Surface started about 4 years ago shipping the Surface Pro 4, we decided to take Intune, our UEFI creation in-house. We didn't want to use the third-party UEFIs out there like other OEMs use. We are a software company at heart that makes hardware as well, and we wanted to bring that in-house, so we created our own UEFI. We call that now Project Mu because we open sourced that UEFI, but there's some cool things that you can do with that. You can now manage that. Over the last few years, we've been able to manage that with a tool called the Surface Enterprise Management Mode that has a plugin into Config Manager. But the flip side is we just recently announced here at Ignite that you can now manage that UEFI all the way from Intune. And what's that mean? That means that if there's a camera on the device, I can disable that camera at the firmware level, and that means that when the machine actually boots and you go into Device Manager, you don't even see the camera because now it's been actually disabled, and so it's no history of it in the device because there's no power going to the camera to even be able to do that. The other thing that you can do is you can lock that UEFI, and so that no other user except for the tenant that owns it or the IT administrator that owns it can actually change that. So you could actually do something like lock boot from USB, and so nobody would ever be able to re-image that device except for the tenant that actually owns the device. We'll tell you a lot more about that over in our booth, and we'll be happy to drive that. So let me come back. Hope I hit the right button. All right. So towards that, that's where we talk about things like UEFI management, where we say end-to-end management of the device. The other thing we want to be able to do is provide that latest level of security. We've actually started to determine that because the operating system is pretty well hardened and there's a lot of endpoint management security going on for the operating system, one of the levels of vulnerability right now is UEFI. So a lot of attack vectors are happening at that UEFI level. So for us to be able to lock that UEFI, but also make it open source so you can actually clearly see in the open all the code, where any kind of exploit or other pieces could actually ever happen, know that this is one of the safest and most secure UEFIs there is. But the other piece would be is that this UEFI can be updated via Windows Update for Business, or we can pass that as MSI packages down through Config Manager and other pieces. So that's a unique thing to Surface, and we actually have a session later today about Surface and security, which will go into a lot of depth about how Windows Update not only can update the operating system, but all the way down to the UEFI level in order to provide that. So be sure to check out that session as well. Big thing though is this is all about productivity. We think of this device as we work closely with Office so that every Office functionality or every functionality that is built into those feature sets, it comes alive on Surface because of the interaction of pen and touch and other experiences out there. So I'm going to skip over this slide since I actually just went through it. What's that? I'm over? All right. So towards that, we're able to actually come in and just drive it. I'm going to skip to the last piece here. We think of this device as a highly attractive device that helps to attract and retain employees. Think of that pride you got when you had an investment, like a device that you were proud of, and how that actually made you feel special towards where you were working and how that brought you in. So bringing that back, we talk about the tools that are out there and the ability to bring that all together, how Surface works with the rest of the M365 team to bring together first and best those experiences, and then finally just showing our profile here towards that. I am happy to take any questions after this session, but I appreciate you having that. And remember, go check it out, the Surface booth. Go get your t-shirt, fill out the passport, know that you'll get enrolled for a device. Kati here has those passports available, and then attend our sessions today for a chance to win free devices in those sessions. So thank you very much.